We are working hard, rejigging and strengthening our security architecture, and in some days and weeks to come, Ndi Anambra will fully experience our zero tolerance to criminality. Together as a people, we must bond together to defeat the criminals amongst us. And those coming, as the speaker rightly said, from neighboring states and other parts of Nigeria. We have extended our free education policy up to senior secondary school, that is SS3 this year, and that means from primary, from kindergarten through nursery, through primary, through the full secondary SS3 in all public schools, now free in Anambra, and recruited an additional 3,115 teachers, bringing the total number of new teachers recruited by this administration to 8,115. There can be no school of any sort, smart or otherwise, without qualitative teachers. And we have rightly prioritized the competitive recruitment of the best teachers for our schools. We equipped some 60 secondary school laboratories with the required STEM equipment. Furthermore, we have increased the operational budgets for both our primary and secondary schools to ensure that they can deliver the quality education we promised, among other initiatives. In the health sector, we continue to offer free antenatal and delivery services for pregnant women in the state, with over 70,000 women as beneficiaries so far. The construction, modernization, and equipment of 326 primary health centers are at advanced stages. A historic trauma center is being constructed at the Chukwuemeka Odumegwu Ojukwu University Teaching Hospital. The Okpoko General Hospital has been completed and fully operational, and 4 other new general hospitals will soon be completed. Of course, this is in addition to several of the general hospitals that have been completely remodeled, remodernized. As a proactive government, we have initiated the construction of the Coordinated Wholesale Center, AOBA, that is pharmaceutical, for pharmaceutical drugs and so on at AOBA. And the jinx. For many years, this project has been stalled for one thing or the other. And so the jinx will soon be broken. This is a critical step towards eliminating the issues associated with open and unregulated drug markets in the state. When completed, this concentrated wholesale center is primed to be the biggest in Africa. To ensure our hospitals are properly equipped, we have begun renovating them and equipping primary health care facilities with the necessary solar power, boreholes, and medical equipment. Additionally, we have started the construction of a new nursing school in the state, just to add to the pool of the existing one. Building the capacity and empowering our youth to shape their own future remains our priority through the One Youth, Two Skills training program. The initial 5,000 graduates of the program are now entrepreneurs, and we have launched the second phase of training over 8,700 young people in the state across various skills, setting aside some 2.53 billion to support their startup capital upon successful completion of their training. The Solution Innovation District SID has trained some 20,000 youths in 4 major tech skills and recently graduated from 1,500 youths in its Code Anambra program. We are intentionally building the human capital of the future. We are constructing the iconic SID building, our own Silicon Valley, and this iconic building sits on the 13-hectare area that's been designated to be our own Silicon Valley. That will be from the current government house down, all those buildings, including exo chambers and all the government house, all the premises down there, 13 hectares down. Converting that whole place as our own Silicon Valley. where the next generation of tech giants will be nurtured. In response to the ongoing economic hardship and in compliance with the minimum wage law, our administration was one of the first states to announce and implement the new minimum wage. We have gone above and beyond by ensuring that the lowest paid worker in the state receives a minimum take-home of 70,000 naira net, not gross salary. Additionally, as a government founded on the manifesto of the All Progressives Grand Alliance with a progressive ideal to, quote, leave no one behind, we have compassionately made a tax-free cash award of 10,000 naira per month to all pensioners in the state. This government prioritizes the people, especially the welfare of workers and our pensioners. I think I must acknowledge our national chairman, unavoidably absent, and here being ably represented by the state chairman of the All Progressives Grand Alliance. So, Chairman, you're welcome. Our palm and coconut revolution, along with our Farm to Feed program, is in full swing. This year, Mr. Speaker, in addition to distributing over 1 million palm and coconut seedlings to 130,000 households in the second phase of our initiative, we have also expanded our efforts to include some staple crops that are at risk of extinction. These include the distribution of some 200,000 okwa seedlings, some 50,000 aquilu seedlings, 50,000 ojibo seedlings, 40,000 pawpaw seedlings, etc. Our goal is to distribute some 10 million of these economically beneficial trees to communities and households over the next 6 years. This initiative serves as one of our key strategies in the sustainable fight against poverty and engineering a new agro-allied industrial revolution of the Dr. M.I. Opara style. Mr. Speaker, it bears repeating and emphasis that these economic trees, a poor household that receives 10 to 15 of these economic trees, nurtures them to start fruiting in 4 or 5 years, that household will be permanently out of poverty. So when we talk about sustainable poverty reduction, given these seedlings, so far over 2 million seedlings distributed since this administration came on board, to households, means that hundreds of thousands of our people will be lifted out of poverty sustainably. So the vulcanizer, the truck pusher, the woman selling pepper by the roadside, who gets these seedlings, plants them, that side income that probably guarantees in today's naira and kobo, when it starts fruiting, guarantees them making over 200,000 on a monthly basis on average. That's a cardinal program of this administration in taking people, hundreds of thousands of households, families out of poverty permanently, and laying a foundation for engineering a new agro-allied industrial revolution. The ecosystem is beginning to emerge. I've known now 2 companies that are establishing farms, companies in Anambra, in readiness to begin to process the output from that sector in terms of the all the output from the coconut and palm and so on. Mr. Speaker, as you have also acknowledged, as we speak, over 540 kilometers of roads are under construction, with approximately 310 kilometers already asphalted in just 30 months, making it an average of about 10 kilometers being asphalted with stone base and with sub-cement stabilization, stone base and thick asphalting, almost completion, execution capacity of an average of 10 kilometers per month, and with a quality that Anambra has not seen before. The Ekulobia flyover and the bus terminal are nearing completion. the dualization of the 34-kilometer federal highway from Amawabia through Agolo, Ekulobia, and Oga to Imo State border, as well as the dualization of the 36 kilometers from Wago Agolo to Nobi, to Newi, through Ozobolo to Okeja, linking to the Onitsha-Owerri highway, will become a game changer. These projects signal our bigger agenda to fundamentally transform our transport infrastructure, as all Trunk A roads are planned for dualization, in addition to our rail transport master plan. The construction of the link bridge at Aroma, connecting the two parts of Oka, is also ongoing. We have broken the 33-year-old jinx of not having a befitting government house and governor's lodge in Oka. This is one state where the capital is in a different town and the governor lives in a different town. We've been stuck on the makeshift ad hoc government house. As you are aware, our current government house was the construction yard for the construction company that built the Enugu-Onitsha Expressway in the early 1980s. That's their parking yard. And when this state was created 33 years ago, they moved in there to the prefabricated buildings there. And for those 33 years, we have been stuck there. And where the governor lives in a different town in Amawabia was also a temporary place. But for 33 years, for whatever reason, whatever it is, that kept us to be the only state that I know that doesn't have a proper government house and a governor's lodge, that jinx is broken. And in a few weeks' time, we'll be moving over to the new government house and new governor's lodge. We expect to move in a few weeks. And for the first time in decades as well, our urban and rural water schemes are back. From Okpoko down to parts of Onitsha, down to Oka here, from Agolo, down to several other communities, to Otuocha, and so on and so forth, Aguleri and so on, where people are now experiencing seeing pipe-borne water again running in their neighborhoods. Our vision to turn Anambra into a destination rather than a departure lounge is fully on course. The solution Fun City, primed to be the biggest in West Africa, is quickly becoming a dream come true and will be commissioned in some weeks to come. Piling work is on steroids for the 10-story Marriott Hotel in Oka, while construction will soon begin in the 20-hectare Oka City Leisure and Entertainment Park. Work is ongoing around the Agolo Lake, and an international consultant will soon finalize the master plans for the 4 Anambra's historic tourist sites. We didn't have any plan, and we're very, very intentional about developing these tourist sites to become world-class tourist sites. Anambra is indeed, as we speak, one big construction site, and Oka, finally, is gradually looking like a state capital. The list is long, and I will not bore you. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, let me now turn to the 2025 budget proposals. From the foregoing, it is evident that there is no stopping our consistent acceleration in a steadfast execution mode. For us, it's execution, execution, execution. For sure, 2025 is a governorship election year in Anambra State. Yes, while the politicians will be focusing on politics, we will be intensely and intentionally focusing 100% on the execution of our multifaceted agenda with a deadline. They say politicians worry more about the next election. Statesmen worry about the next generation. While we are sitting on a seat that is supposed to be political, but our mindset and our action and the way we operate. We are really focusing on securing that future for the next generation. Consequently, we have titled this budget Changing Gears 2.0. We're not relenting 1 second, with emphasis on acceleration and execution. The proposed budget size, Mr. Speaker, honorable members, is 661,991,846,118 naira for the fiscal year 2025. You can say with approximately 607 billion. And this represents a compared to 2024 budget of 410 billion, this represents a 48% increase. Recurrent expenditures account for about 140 billion, and year on year, with a growth of about 45% year on year growth. While capital expenditure is 468 billion, with a year on year growth of about 49%. The capital budget, Mr. Speaker, honorable members, constitutes 77% of the total budget size, while recurrent expenditures account for 23%. It is still this same ratio for the 2024 budget. In the 2024 budget, we have the ratio of 23% and 77%. The budget deficit is expected at about 148.3 billion, and that's about 24% of the budget, compared to 30% of the budget that we have for 2024. As in 2024 budget, the deficit is expected to be funded through revenue growth or borrowing from financial institutions. But, Mr. Speaker, honorable members, so far in 2024, 2023, and 2024, we did not borrow to finance budget deficits, even though both budgets contain significant deficits. Depending on the execution in 2025, we may still not borrow to fund the deficit. Relative to 2024, several key sectors are seeing significant increases in the proposed budget. The administrative sector will have an increase of about 45.5%. The economic sector, which has, humongous infrastructure and economic transformation, about 40.1%. The judiciary by 51.3%. The social sector by 82.7%. Education by 101.4%. Health by 57.1%, and infrastructure and investment by 39%. This is the percentage increases for these various sectors. I think no surprise that education is the one that has more than 100% increase from this year's budget. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, we are building upon the iconic projects initiated in 2024 while introducing new ones. Infrastructure and economic transformation, as well as human capital development, remain the key kernel of this administration. And it is significant that at least 70% of the budget is allocated to these sectors. That is infrastructure, the economic transformation, plus human capital. When you pull the entire budget, about 70% of the entire budget focuses around this area. We are progressing the development of 3 new cities, the Oka 2.0, Anisha 2.0, and the new industrial city. The Anambra mixed-use industrial city master plan and the railway master plan feasibility study have been completed. Afrexim Bank and African Development Bank remain committed to supporting the development of the industrial city. We will continue to enhance the ease of doing business in Anambra, which will rank among the best in the country, to ensure the state becomes the preferred destination for investors. We recently concluded the second edition of the Anambra Investment Summit and Invest 2.0, where major companies and institutions signed Memorandum of Understanding with Anambra. Investment summits are not the usual ones. In our investment summits, we close deals. We plan to build the largest shopping mall in Africa. Anambra is a commercial hub, and develop leisure centers throughout the state. Recently, we invested in the equipment to handle night landing capabilities at Chinua Achebe International Airport, and we will complete the unfinished business with respect to the airport in the coming year. Several areas, we don't have even a VIP lounge now. There is no protocol lounge. There's no, quite a whole lot of things still need to be completed there. And that is, Mr. Speaker, honorable members, anyone driving to the airport now can really feel the solution touch. We will also make investments in our mass transit systems and marine transport, including buses, jetties, and boats. Additionally, we will continue our efforts to extend electricity, to underserved communities. We have drafted a regulatory framework to encourage private sector investment in the Anambra electricity market under the National Electricity Amendment Act of 2023. The Anambra State Electricity Policy and Bill have been drafted and are currently under review by this Honorable House. We will keep expanding our water projects to ensure that every part of Anambra State has access to clean water. Our focus on human capital will continue, with education and health receiving the preeminent attention they deserve. Our goal remains to provide free and qualitative education for every child in Anambra to enable them to succeed. We will maintain our free education policy and will continue to pay the newly agreed operational costs for schools. As, if I may just say a word on this, because, Mr. Speaker, you did make this point, that Anambra currently has the lowest out-of-school children in the entire, among the entire, the 36 states and FCT. But let me also tell you that some study that just completed about a month or so ago. And that point is that they did a survey of these out-of-school children. And one interesting finding is that they found that the out-of-school children who are of Anambra origin is about 0. The out-of-school children we find are really those who have come into Anambra from other places. For Anambra indigents is almost 0 in Anambra. We are transforming 22 secondary schools into smart schools, with many more to follow in the new year, setting a standard for what an ideal school should be in Anambra. Of course, I would not fail to mention that, what was said before, as part of our own agenda, is that in terms of education, the first priority is having qualitative teachers. There cannot be any school, a school of any sort, whether smart or anything, without having qualitative teachers. And that's why we've broken the record of being the first, governor that came into office, and within first few months, an assumption of office, prioritize competitive recruitment of teachers, where we don't ask people where you come from. And from about 8,115 teachers that we have recruited newly since the last 30 months, even far less, since we assumed office, we understand that in terms of state-by-state distribution, they cover about 18 states of Nigeria, because the interest of the Anambra child is to be taught by the best teacher in the world, not by the incompetent teacher from his village. And that's why, apologies to any of you who may have been bringing, wanting to bring somebody from your village to be recruited as teacher and was not taken, because for us, the best, only the best, is good enough for Anambra schools. Can't have smart schools without smart teachers. Indeed, you can have learning outcomes can be high, even when the children are being taught under a tree with an excellent teacher in front of them. But you can have best equipped school with all the air conditioning and all the state-of-the-art equipment. It's garbage in, garbage out. If you have a moron as a teacher in front of the children, learning outcomes will be zero. And for us in Anambra, learning outcomes is priority. And that's why we're learning quite a lot of emphasis on building the capacity of our teachers. And so, we will continue the aggressive upgrade of infrastructure in our primary schools through the ASUBE program. Indeed, by 2025, we plan to make significant investments in education so that our students and teachers will smile like never before. As you can see, the increase in the budgetary allocation is over 100%. We will also continue to support mission schools, especially the return mission schools. So far, government spends over 1.2 billion a month to pay the salaries of government teachers that are deployed to these return mission schools, excluding the pensions of teachers that retired from these schools. These subsidies to mission schools help to reduce the cost of primary and secondary education to the parents in Anambra State. We have set up a committee headed by the Secretary to State Government to work with the missions to see in what other ways government can assist, especially the return schools, within its resource constraints to ensure access to qualitative education to every child in Anambra. The needs of the poor and vulnerable individuals are also addressed in this budget. We are continuing the program of this seedlings distribution, and we're expecting that over 100,000 households will receive 10 or more seedlings of coconut, palm, okra, pawpaw, soursop, and other crops per household, as we did in 2024 and 2023. We will also provide grants to micro businesses across the 326 wards in the state as part of our commitment to our party mantra of Onyaga na Nwanne, leave no one behind. Leave no one behind. Be your brothers and sisters' keeper. That is the motto of our party, the All Progressives Grand Alliance. And we are focused on this, to build a society where no one is left behind, where everybody has a stake. In 2025, we plan to expand our One Youth, Two Skills program to accommodate more youths and empower them accordingly. We're also establishing a 1 million digital tribe, scaling our digital skill training program through the Solution Innovation District. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, I don't want to bore you much further with all the details in the budget. The full document is available, and I can see some of you already flipping through for your review and necessary action. However, I would like to point out that the size of the budget, which might sound, you hear 607 billion, sounds big. Maybe in nominal terms. That might be what we call money illusion, the economics, the numbers. Money is what money can buy. In real terms, in terms of purchasing power, or even in US dollars, this budget still amounts to a mere $357 million. And when you compare it to the actual expenditures as per the audited accounts in previous years, then you will appreciate that this budget, even though it might sound big in nominal terms, is actually very small. For example, the actual expenditure in 2008, in dollar terms, when you convert the spending in naira by the average exchange rate by the central bank for that year, you have 2008 was 517 million US dollars. 2013 was about 1.1 billion US dollars. 2014 about 1.2 billion US dollars. 2015 was about $685 million. And 2021 was 329 million US dollars. Okay? Comparatively, the budget we just presented to you, remember the average exchange rate is about 357 million US dollars. What is before you? Just estimates. So even if we execute 100% of it, it will still be a fraction of what was spent in some years past. 1 year's budget, 1 year, here you hear 2013, actual expenditure about 1.1 billion. This budget will be less than probably one-third, less than one-third of that, so to speak. This is even more so given the humongous increases in the prices of basic inputs in construction and governance. Government vehicles, as you all experience, will still have to be fueled at over 1,000 naira per liter compared to less than 100 naira some years ago. Or cement, which cost a few hundred naira some years past, and even up to 3,000 naira just a few years ago, a year or two ago. They're now costing over about 10,000 naira per bag. But you still have to build, have all the construction work, you still have to do the drainages, you still have to pay for bitumen and aggregates that have gone up by 300-400% and so on. So while all the inputs into our governance process have increased by hundreds of percent, but revenue has not increased proportionately in nominal or real terms. And that's the challenge that we have. But, Mr. Speaker, honorable members, for us there are no excuses or complaints. We apply for the job and must deliver dividends of democracy to our people despite all the constraints. So far, even with a fraction of resources available some years ago, we are determined to deliver multiples of results as produced in those years. As stated in the 2024 budget, we will only borrow on 2 strict criteria. First, if we borrow at all, it must be concessional loan. And B, it must be allocated to projects with a clear plan for repayment in the future. We're not going to borrow to consume. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, funding the budget will remain a challenge. I've discussed this with you sometime when we have met about our IGR. But frugality is our watchword, and the mantra will remain doing more with less. Our government has been rated the #1 state in fiscal transparency and in the top 5 on fiscal sustainability. We have caused the cost of governance to bare bones, and the unprecedented ratio of our recurrent to capital, 23% to 77, 23% recurrent and 77 to capital, speaks volumes. The internally generated revenue segment remains our weakest link. Over the past few years, we have consistently performed significantly below our budget. In 2025, we have projected an average monthly revenue of 5 billion, which should be modest, which will result in a total IGR of about 60 billion. Currently, we're averaging only about 2.5 per month, which is well below the state's capacity. Indeed, some people suggest that Anambra should not be generating less than 10 to 15 billion monthly, by some estimates, some experts. In the coming weeks, there will be renewed effort to strengthen our revenue generation capacity. We hope to maximize the strategic partnerships with the federal government, the international community, and the private sector and communities. We commend many communities and stakeholders in the Anambra project who are investing heavily in their communities, constructing roads, improving schools and hospitals, and co-funding security. Together, we will continue to build the big tent. To demonstrate our commitment to working with the development partners, the state has allocated some 5 billion as counterpart funding in the 2025 budget. Let me also express our sincere appreciation to the members of the solution team, the esteemed members of the 8th Assembly, the judiciary, the public and civil servants, our teachers, our security agencies, and all stakeholders for their dedicated service to our homeland. I thank our community leaders, traditional rulers, religious leaders, members of the private sector, the international community, the federal government, the media, NGOs, youths, women, and students for their invaluable support. We will never take your contributions for granted. Your continuing support will be critical in implementing the 2025 budget. I want to assure you, as I have always done, that every cover entrusted in our palms will be judiciously used to provide value to you. You have put your trust in us to serve you. My deputy, Dr. Onyekatu Ibezi, the deputy governor, I almost, this one is 1 + 1 = 1. So when I came, I forgot that you are here, the deputy governor. You've entrusted both of us, Dr. Onyekatu Ibezi and I, and the executive branch, you and the legislative branch, and the judiciary, to serve you. And together with our solution team, we will continue to work tirelessly to fulfill that commitment. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, as I end this speech, let me remind us that this budget is not merely a set of figures and allocations. It represents your hopes, aspirations, and the collective vision for our future. Our agenda is fundamentally about shaping a better tomorrow, not only for ourselves, but also for the generations unborn. We are engaged in critical efforts that expand beyond our immediate needs and concerns. With this budget, we are laying the groundwork for a thriving and sustainable future for many generations to come. Let us join hands today. And as we look ahead to 2025, let us fully embrace the idea that we can and will achieve our goals together. The journey towards progress has only just begun, and I am excited to join hands with you to witness the remarkable transformation we can make as a united force. Yes, all of you here are politicians, but I urge you to drop the hat of politics and wear the garb of statesmanship. Politicians worry only about elections. Statesmen worry about the next generation. Let us put the gap as statesmen and worry about the future generations of Anambra, generations yet unborn, that in the end, when we all pass and leave this stage, those coming decades to come will be able to say, yes, we passed through here. Thank you very much. May Anambra continue to win, and God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria.